Near the end of Season 4, you may have seen me running around with an Abyss Void Gauntlet build over on my live streams, and I did want to get a build video out for it, but I wanted to wait until Season 5, knowing that there were more than likely going to be some changes that I was going to want to implement into this build. Well, in today's video, I'm finally going to be going over this build, showing you how I run it, but also showing you a couple different options if you wanted to change some things up in order to make the build work better for yourself. Before we fully get into today's video, I do just want to say if this video helps you out, or if you just like it, please drop it a like. It really helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more content like this, including more build videos, loot videos, stuff like that, definitely subscribe to the channel so you know when those videos go up. I also stream throughout the week over on Twitch as well as YouTube, so definitely stop by a stream, say hello, lurk, anything like that. We would love to have you. But let's get into today's video. Alright, we are over here at the Springtide Bloom event area. And first, as always, we are going to start with the gear for the build and take a look at what we got going. So for the armor, what you're going to find is that 4 of my pieces of armor are going to have void harnessing, and 4 of them will actually have health as well. So health, void harnessing, those are the 2 perks that I'm kind of going after, and then elemental aversion on top of that. So helmet, ended up crafting this first craft, by the way. I was very happy with it. Void harnessing, elemental aversion with health. We are rocking the Nature's Wrath chest piece, which I have been absolutely loving it. As you've known, or as you've maybe seen on my channel, I've done 2 other Nature's Wrath builds. This will be the 3rd one, and I actually have a 4th one as well with Nature's Wrath that I'm going to be coming out with. I was just waiting for Life Taker to get fixed, which today it actually is fixed, so I'll be doing that probably next week. But Nature's Wrath been working really well for me. Been having a lot of fun working around essentially not having empowerments. For my gloves, I have Void Harnessing, Health, and Voracious Blade. Voracious Blade works fantastic, especially since you might be able to see there, I am running the Blood Drinker ring. So you pair that with it, and it works really, really well, especially when you drop below 50% health. You can get some massive healing coming in with that Voracious Blade. For the pants, same as my helmet, Elemental Aversion, Void Harnessing, Health. And then for the boots, we do have Nullifying Oblivion, Void Harnessing, and instead of health, I ended up rolling with Conditioning, which I just left because Strike Conditioning isn't maybe the best, but it's not the worst. It works just fine for me for now until I can maybe decide to roll more or find something on the market. But Nullifying Oblivion from a support standpoint works really, really, really well. There's a lot of fortifies and just a lot of buffs and stuff out there, timed buffs that you'll be able to remove. And honestly, if your team follows up, you can really help clear some pretty big groups of enemies fairly quickly. So I really like that. You also do get the 10% cooldown. So from a PvE standpoint, you also get a 10% cooldown on your Oblivion. So it is really, really nice still. For the weapons, the Abyss for our artifact, and I put Trenchant Strikes on it. With the Trenchant Strikes, it makes the heavy attacks land for a lot. Those heavies can hit for quite a bit, especially if someone's trying to run away or they have their back turned. And let's say you scream circle into a heavy attack, you can do a lot of damage, or a scream circle into an execute works as well. But the Trenchant Strikes has worked fantastic for me. You could also do like Trenchant Recovery, I suppose, if you're trying to only run this as like more of a lifesteal build. But honestly, Trenchant Strikes is fantastic. For the Void Gauntlet, I have the Draught of Death. And with this, the 2 perks that it comes with is Abyssal Attunement and Life Stealing, I believe. And then I ended up putting Putrefying Scream on it. Now, this is one that you can actually go out and farm in the open world. And I will try to put, I'll try to put a location either in the description so you can go and try to find it yourself. But it is in Elysian Wilds that I went and farmed it, and was pretty happy, honestly, that there was one out there with 2 of the 3 perks that I wanted. And then the Putrefying Scream just kind of came with it. So we get that massive disease and the debuff to the outgoing healing. So Scream, Putrefying Scream is fantastic. Very, very, very good perk, especially when it's on the Void Gauntlet itself. So because this is more of a support DPS type of a build, I didn't want to just purely go for damage output. I wanted that utility side to it. So the Putrefying Scream, Nullifying Oblivion, those 2 perks in itself are really, really good for support. As for the jewelry, I'm rocking the same amulet I pretty much always wear, the Health Divine Thrust Protection. Thrust damage is still probably my #1 biggest enemy when it comes to OPRs, so I like to have some extra resistance to that. For my ring, like I said earlier, I'm rocking the Blood Drinker ring, and I do have Keen Awareness still on it. The other perk that I'm still considering, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think I should switch over to Purifying Heart or keep the Keen Awareness? Because they both have really good, sides to it. The Keen Awareness obviously increases that crit chance, so we're just doing a little bit more damage. But on the flip side, the Purifying Heart can remove all of the debuffs that are on me, including all the disease that happens to be in OPR. So I don't really know. I think they both have their advantages. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think I should run, because currently Keen Awareness seems to work well, but I'm considering the Purifying Heart. For my earring, though, I have Refreshing Toast, Nimble, and Fortifying Toast. The Fortifying Toast is fantastic. I really like it. It just increases that tankiness to a medium build especially, gives you that extra armor. And then if you pair that with like a Scream, where you can get Fortify from that as well, you can actually get a good amount of Fortify on top of that with Voidblade. And we're going to get into this once we get into the Mastery. But with Voidblade, you also do get a Fortify from it, which people don't actually realize all the time. And there is a certain way you can play that to pretty much continually keep a Fortify on your character most of the time, especially when you're in a fight. So that is what we got going for gear. As for your heart rune, I do recommend probably running Stone Form or Vines. Either one really works. Stone Form is really nice because then you get grit with your Voidblade if you're not rocking 300 con. But Vines is really strong. You can apply the Weaken, the Rend, all of that, plus obviously the Root. So kind of comes down to what you think is most valuable to yourself. But next, let's go take a look over at the attributes, and then we'll get into the mastery of the build. All right, taking a look over at the attributes here, you can see it's a little bit different of a layout than I normally do. We rock the 152 con, so then when I take a 48 con food, which is the roasted rabbit, I will then get up to the 200 mark and get that extra armor. With the focus, I like to run 50 focus, so I get the plus 10% incoming healing and the plus 5% ability cooldown reduction, just to get those circles and screams back a little bit faster. And then essentially everything else into int. Now, what you can do if you want is you can try running 300 con. Now, your damage output is going to hurt quite a bit, but with that, you are going to have much more survivability for one, and two, you're going to have grit with your Voidblade if that's the direction you're going, and with your Great Axe, obviously, but specifically with Voidblade, you'll be able to just kind of sit there and just keep swinging, and then maybe get some screams and circles back that much faster. But I personally have found that the 200 works best for me, just get that little extra armor, and then everything else into int, so then we get the plus 10% on our ability damage. So plus 10% ability damage has made a really big difference for me. I've tried running without that, and it just felt like my damage was lacking to the point where I just wasn't happy with it. So I go 200 con, 50 focus, everything int, but definitely play around and see what works best for you. But next, let's go actually take a look at the weapon mastery so you can kind of see what I'm doing and some of the decisions that I made due to the fact that we're running the Nature's Wrath. Okay, so let's take a look at the Void Gauntlet first for the mastery. It's a pretty straightforward layout, but I'll kind of go into some of the reasonings why I chose certain things and why we might not want to choose certain things, specifically because of the Nature's Wrath chest piece. So what I did, obviously we're going Voidblade, pretty much full left tree outside of two different perks. I really like the left tree because we get a lot of cooldown reduction. So right here, 5% cooldown reduction on all abilities on critical hit. So again, with like Voidblade and stuff, every time we're critting, we're getting those circles and screams back that much faster. And it's up to max 5 hits per attack. So if you're swinging on a clump, you can get up to a 25% cooldown reduction with just one attack. It's actually crazy how fast you can get some of those abilities back with Voidblade specifically. Now you could also do that with like Orb or something like that, but because I'm running Voidblade, it works really, really well. We also get a plus 10% crit chance while all abilities are on cooldown. So if we go Scream, Circle, and Voidblade, and they're all on cooldown, we do get a slight higher crit chance. We get another cooldown reduction right here, so 5% cooldown reduction on all abilities when successfully hitting enemies afflicted by 3 or more debuff stacks. Stacks can be from different debuffs, so no matter what the debuff is, you can actually get cooldown reduction. So if you pair that with this, you can get those Screams and Circles back like super, super quick. If there's a big clump, you'll get them back really, really fast, and it's fantastic because you'll just scream, circle, swing, 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 scream, circle, swing. Like, it's really, really fun. Now, when we actually look over at the two that I did not pick, this one is gain in power when casting abilities within 5 meters of an enemy. This will actually not work because of Nature's Wrath. It will immediately get rid of that empowerment and will not actually stick with you. So just kind of a pointless perk. Instead, we went with the 10% damage on successful range attacks. So just range attacks do a little bit more damage. I honestly think it works great because I've actually found that Void can do decent damage at range. I just never really used it as range in the past. But as a ranged weapon, it actually can do decent damage. So I do highly recommend, even though this is a Voidblade build, still utilize it as a ranged weapon too. I just honestly forget that sometimes that Void Gauntlet is a ranged weapon on top of being, melee with the Voidblade, which makes it really, really cool. The other perk that I don't go with is the Harvest Essence. Health drain is reduced by 35%. I don't really use Harvest Essence with this build because we are trying to keep our mana below 100% most of the time due to the Abyss perk. So I try to really not have anything that's going to increase our mana. I don't run Energizing Hearty Meals or anything like that. So I take that one off. And again, we went with this one here. So mana costs are reduced by 25%, well above 50% mana. So I know I said I didn't want to get mana back, but this just makes it so we can burn through like our Scream and our Circle a little bit quicker and still be able to burn through them. Like there are times where I will completely run out of mana if I'm just left clicking with Voidblade into a group and I'm just surviving and stuff, like in Scream after Circle, like if it's over and over and over, there are times where I will run out of mana and then switch that Void or to the Abyss, get in a few crit hits, and then you'll actually get some mana back as you're critting with your Abyss as well because of the higher int that you have. So really, really good option. Definitely play around with some of these though if you think that you might benefit from some different layouts, but this is what I found works best for me. And earlier when we were talking about the Fortify, I want to show you the two Fortifies that you can actually get from running Void Gauntlet. One is the Scream, so you get a 10% Fortify per hit for 10 seconds, up to 3 stacks. So let's say you Scream a group of 3, you're now at a 30% Fortify. So we take the 30% Fortify, then we add that into our 20% from our Fortifying Toast. That's a 50% Fortify. And then we have the Fortified Blade. So this is a Fortify that a lot of people don't think about, and it's one that you can actually utilize in order to get that Fortify and just a quick burst of armor. Gain Fortify on start, increasing armor by 20% for 5 seconds. So right when that Voidblade comes out, you get that Fortify. So what I've been doing is I'll drop a Circle, Scream, and then ideally I'd try to have my Voidblade out and try to do it quick. Otherwise you can go Circle, Scream, take your Voidblade out. Now if you screamed 3 people, you're at 30%. You're at 50%, and then if you take a pot on top of that, or at some point, you're then at a 70% Fortify. So then any rend or anything like that is going to be, kind of balancing it out. So you're not going to be like negative armor as easily, and it works really, really well. And when I say negative armor, I just mean due to the rend that people might be applying to you. So it does make you fairly tanky, especially in medium armor. If you try to think about the fact that every time you pop that Voidblade, for 5 seconds, you're getting a 20% Fortify. So something to think about when you're running it, and something that actually makes Voidblade very, very good in my opinion, because Fortify is really nice, especially in medium, like I was saying. So that is the Void Gauntlet build though, the Voidblade build that I've been really enjoying. It's worked great for me. We do run the left tree with the Void Collar, so you get that aura that goes around you, heals, does some damage, stuff like that. So really, really nice overall build that's worked great for me. Next, let's take a look at the Great Axe. So with this Great Axe build, you're going to see that there's no Fortify, or no empowerment, again, due to the Nature's Wrath. But there are going to be some things that will still utilize and work with Nature's Wrath, and that is Bloodlust. So Bloodlust is not an empowerment, it is just an increase in damage as long as you're looking at your foe. So if you're looking at them, you are essentially doing 15% more damage, and you are 20% faster. So overall, Bloodlust is a fantastic way to go when you're running Nature's Wrath. and makes a really big difference when you're trying to chase people as well. And then for the other abilities that I'm running, obviously we have Charge, Reap, and Execute. I absolutely love these 3 abilities. They've been working really, really well. But again, you could change it up. You could go Gravity Well, you could go Maelstrom. You could really change this up and make it work for you. This is just what's worked for me. I love Execute. Is it the best ability overall? Probably not. Maelstrom might be a little bit better, but it is very, very, very fun. So I do choose to run it, and you do get grit through it. So you can utilize that grit as well to your advantage. So for the passive perks, though, I do go for a lot of these that are going to give us healing, increase crit damage. We have the pulls that will root foes, so then when we use a Reap or a heavy attack or anything like that, we can actually root them as well. And then with our heavy attacks, we also gain grit, which gives us a 12% damage reduction as well while the grit is active. So really, really big difference. And like we were saying with the Abyss build that I have, or with the Abyss artifact, I'm running Trenchant Strikes, so I'm landing a lot of heavy attacks and getting that damage reduction on top of that. So it works really, really well for me, and I do highly recommend it. If you're not running 300 con especially, this is like an absolute necessary perk, in my opinion. But if you are running 300, it is still really good to have because you get the damage reduction, but it's totally up to you how you want to run it. So like I said, though, this is the build that's worked for me. There's no empowerment stacks. There's just kind of damage increases, crit damage increases, stuff like that. So see what works for you and kind of tweak it, and let me know down in the comments if anything like that has worked for you, or what you've changed to make it work specifically for your build and how you like to play it. But that's what we're looking at for the builds themselves. Next, I do have a little bit of footage of the build in action. Like I said, I've really been enjoying it, so hopefully you can enjoy some gameplay of my Abyss Voidblade build. This build has been so much fun for me to play, and I really hope that you can kind of take this as a baseline, tweak it, make it work for you. Obviously, Voidblade is not the most popular of abilities out there, but I personally have really been enjoying it because I've always wanted Voidblade to work, and finally I have a build that it feels like it's working pretty decent for me, and hopefully it works for you as well. But if you do make some changes to the build, which I do highly recommend to fit your playstyle better, definitely let me know down in the comments so I can see what changes you've made and maybe try some of them myself to see if it matches up with how I would like to use it. But that is going to do it for today's video, so until next time, I'll see you guys later.